Oh my goodness. Howdy there, disco citizens. I'm Teri Gamble.
I am Julia Marchese.
And welcome to Horror X, a collaboration with the George A. Romero Foundation and our podcast, Horror Movie Survival Guide.
Horror X explores the femmes who make fright films fantasticorical and palavers with them about their experiences in film and horror.
Today, we're having a wonderful, scintillating conversation with Lucé Tomlin-Brenner, a comedian, podcaster, and DIY filmmaker. She is passionate about making cinema accessible to all people, yes, and can frequently be found managing the Los Angeles Highland Park video store, Videotheque, where she fights for the appreciation and proliferation of physical media. There she hosts Video Visions, a wonderful monthly show that I've often been a part of, a cinema-inspired stand-up show on the fourth Thursday of every month.
And as a frequent podcast guest, Lucé can be heard dishing on everything. And she also hosts the popular year-round Halloween history and storytelling podcast. It's always Halloween, and it is always Halloween in my heart. So I'm so excited to talk about it.
Correct. You are absolutely right. And in 2021, she launched Too Much Productions, a queer feminist horror comedy collective for DIY filmmakers with audacious visions. Lucé believes horror and comedy helps us to process the absurdities and inequities of our very surreal world. Oh
Lucé,
my goodness.
Yes. Welcome to Horror X.
Yay!
Yay! Hello, my beautiful redheads. So great.
Yes.
Redhead domination.
All redheads today. Oh my goodness, Lucé.
Too powerful. I don't know how the people will handle it.
They won't. It's going to be too much. It's too much for the people.
Got full scanner's head on everybody.
Oh my God. Yes. Explosions. Oh my gosh. Lucé, what a dream come true. This has been like a dream of mine for a very long time to have you here and
so
chat with you.
Thank you. I just adore both of you. Julia and I accosted each other at a VHS swap like a couple of years ago and immediately had so much in common just on the ground. And then Teri, you're a customer at Videotheque. I think we've all been friends online for a while, but then we finally got to see each other in person. It was like such a thrill.
And meeting over physical media each time, of course, as should be done. And I am such a big fan of your suggestions of, spending time with you at Videotheque. You always are like a font of freaking beautiful knowledge that I'm just like, in love.
I might like VHS a little, just a little bit.
Look at your gorgeous rainbow. That's so lovely. My hallway here is my complete, that's like where it's all dedicated, but this is the zone of the...
We see the ofrenda to David Lynch back there. I see a little Lynch face right there.
St. David the artist, my friend framed that for me after he passed. He's one of my top 3 favorite filmmakers, and I took his death very hard, still recovering.
Yeah.
Understood. Julia too, also super fan. She's gone to so many like different things. And I gave her a picture, I think, of David Lynch last year, I think for your birthday.
Did.
So yeah. Very, very simpatico here. So we got to start at the beginning, Lucé. I know we're big fans of you and big fans of horror, obviously, but I want to know, so we can tell our audience, where did your interest in horror begin? When did you fall in love with Halloween and horror?
I am so happy you brought this up because they came in at different times. So Halloween is the thing that I have loved my whole life. I have no memory of not celebrating or being obsessed with it. And before I started It's Always Halloween in the fall of 2020, I asked my mom, where did this start? And because you guys are such big Halloween fans, did you just pass that on to me? And she's like, no, it's not that we were Halloween fans. You were really interested in Halloween as a child and got us, your parents, interested.
Oh.
So I guess at 4 or 5, I asked if we could start decorating the outside of the house. We obviously did jack-o'-lanterns and stuff, but I had, noticed trick-or-treating in my young age that some houses had more decor than others. So we grew up very blue collar, and my parents were like not able to do like, you know, the kinds of giant displays that are so frequent now. But we went to the little drugstore and we got those crepe paper skeletons, you know, that are like
Mhm.
cardboard face and like the little like jiggly arms and legs. And we hung those from our porch. We got 2 blow up ghosts. Now, not the kind that are, you know, like the full fan inflatables, but like truly like
Oh my God, yes.
blow
Like a
up
floaty for the
ghosts.
pool.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I was trying to think of. Like a little pool floaty. They had little arms that went out like this and just kind of cute little like faces. And they staked them down in the yard. There were 2 of those. And I think that was like our decor for the first couple of years. And then, you know, as time went on, my mom and I would go to Goodwill and we'd buy stuff that we could turn into decor. And we got really DIY and artistic about it. And it became like a really big thing in my family. So Halloween always, and horror. I was actually always scared of like violence or like really like things that were like truly disturbing. I like couldn't handle as a child. I think the first like horror thing that I saw was my parents rented Watership Down for me,
Ooh,
animated bunnies.
rough.
Okay, really
Brutal.
rough. Not barely about animated bunnies. It's like a
No.
really dark story about like loss and gentrification and oppression.
It's like
told through
showing
animated
you
bunnies.
the Animal Farm adaptation. Be like, oh, it's for kids. You're like, no.
No,
But
no, it's
with so
not.
much blood. There's so much blood in that movie. So that really messed me up. And then I was also really messed up by the 46, the Peter and the Wolf Disney short, where
Oh,
the wolf has like
yeah.
the really large jaws and this like red and gold eyes and like the big chompy teeth. Oh,
Yeah.
and the music, there's something about the like orchestral music and the way it plotted and signaled the wolf's arrival. I don't know, it just really like got under my tiny little child skin, and I didn't like it. So I would have these regular reoccurring nightmares about wolves chasing me. So for years and years and years, I couldn't watch anything with wolves. And I think I had those reoccurring dreams well into my 20s. I don't know if they stopped
Wow.
happening until I moved to Los Angeles. I had to leave the Midwest
Wow.
to like get away from the wolves.
That's wild.
So I actually didn't start watching like legit horror movies until high school. And I think the first one was, I actually have this distinct memory, and I don't remember if it was junior high or high school. My mom waking me up in the middle of the night on a Saturday. I don't know, it was like 2, 3 in the morning. And she wakes me up and she goes, "It's I Know What You Did Last Summer is playing on HBO right now, and I really want to watch it, but I'm too scared to watch it alone."
Yes.
And so she like dragged me out of bed and we watched it, and I was scared, but I remember not realizing that horror could be fun.
Yeah.
You know, because like the kind of child's horror movie, Return to Oz also fucked me up as a kid.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just also
A whole generation of us, for sure.
Absolutely, like the
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, I would also feel so violent in a mean, scary way. Like, and I don't know what you did last summer. Obviously violent, but it was so like haunted house, like walking through a haunted house attraction. You know, as a movie almost.
Yeah.
Like ooh like I didn't know it could be fun, and so then I started watching all the slashers of like the 90s, and then going backwards. And by college, I was really into that kind of stuff, and I met other people who told me about more films, and then I started working at video stores, and then it exploded and has gone off the rails since then.
So what tell us about your video store experience and how that opened your eyes as a viewer.
Oh, working at video stores completely changed my life and turned me into the person that I am in every single way. I think the video stores, just like libraries, the greatest resource that we can have in society, and that they need to be preserved, and that they can work in conjunction and alongside of streaming, which is also important for access to people. But video stores, you know, I was born in the 80s, so I was taken to video stores as a kid. Some of my earliest memories are running around our hometown video store, which was called Bookseller Video, because they started out as a used bookstore. But then when tapes were
Incredible.
invented,
Yes.
let's come together. And you guys would have loved this place. It is so 100% your exact like taste and style. It was an old bowling alley converted into a bookstore / video store.
Why did I just get goosebumps all over my entire body, you saying that?
I told I knew you would love
I
that.
mean, I
So
literally
had to have
DJ in a
been-
bowling alley on Saturday nights. Like I'm in a bowling alley all the
Yes.
time, like weekly, and it's
Now imagine
there's
it as a
something
video
about
store.
bowling
Yeah.
shoes, bowling floors, like that aesthetic, that vibe. I love those textures. That, but that with
texture.
books and videos, oh, stop.
in
So
that big ass
stop.
space.
Yeah,
Ugh.
huge. And like, so because it wasn't a bowling alley anymore, the bookshelves went down the lanes.
Yes.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
like
I want
where
it.
the gutters or like, the in between places of the
Mhm.
lanes. So you would walk down the lanes and the in between places would be these high
Oh.
shelves. And the shelves were so high you couldn't see onto the other side. So it was also sort of dark, like not super well lit. Lit the
Spooky.
same way a bowling alley is lit.
Oh
which is
my
like-
God. Incredible.
And then it had a warehouse section next door. It had like bought the next like building and like took the wall down and so it was not just an entire bowling alley, but then it went on into a warehouse full of movies.
Wow. That sounds like heaven.
Yeah, and it was. And I was an only child, and my parents were both teachers, and they were pretty strict, and like they didn't want me to watch rated R movies until I was like a teenager. And like in general, I wasn't like a kid who was allowed to just like run free. But when I went to the video store, they did let me run free. And it was just
Mhm.
like, okay, we're going to go do our thing. You're going to go do your thing. And when I was a little kid, that was just like, it was giant. It was like a mall, but just of like movies and books, which were my favorite things. So those were some of my most fun memories. And then of course, like you could rent up to 8 movies at a time, and my parents would. And it was so cool because, like I said, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, and I didn't get I got toys, but not like a lot of the stuff my friends were getting. I had one Barbie instead of like 20 Barbies, that kind of thing. But at the video, it was all, my parents would always be willing to put a little money into movies and books, which made that experience all the more
Because they were
valuable.
teachers.
Yeah,
mine
exactly.
were educators too. So I feel that like so viscerally. Yes. They were like,
Yeah.
yes, we will take you to the library every day, Terry, if you want. I was like, okay, great. You can go
Yes.
rent there. And like, yeah, I was renting stuff there as well as Video Dollar Day, our video store. So yeah.
Yes, we
Yeah.
had our library was on our street, so we also went there all the time. I
Mhm.
remember going there, and my parents didn't want to rent movies there because the selection wasn't big enough, and they also were like cinephiles, and they wanted this giant collection. But I do have this memory of renting the Shelley Duvall Fairy Tale Theater tapes from my library.
Constantly on a
Constantly.
rotation.
Yeah.
Those had me on such a chokehold. Absolutely. That
I was-
Cinderella with Jennifer Beals and Matthew Broderick.
And there is oh my God, there's that weird one. Is it Carrie Fisher and like the Swan Princess? She's riding a bird.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we didn't have that one. Yeah.
It's a weird one. I clearly only have these weird like little images. of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously definitely loved going to the library too, but it just really deepened my appreciation for culture, because that's like what my parents spent time sort of letting me indulge in when instead of other stuff that other people were doing, and so we would bring home 8 movies at a time. We watched movies all weekend, and I just did that my whole life, all through my teen years. And at 19, that video store, I ended up getting a job there, and I only went to college like an hour away. So I would work there on the weekends. I would work there for all my breaks, and I became a manager there. And I worked there for like 4 or 5 years. And then I got a manager job at a family video in Findlay, Ohio, which is like Northwest Ohio. I grew up near Cleveland, Ohio, along the Great Lakes. And then I worked there for a while, and I moved to DC with some friends because I wanted to get out of the Midwest. And I ended up managing a video store there, and it was a part of this small chain called Video American that I know you've seen Serial Mom.
Yeah.
You're Serial Mom fans. So the video store that Matthew Lillard works in is a Video American store. There were 5 of them in Maryland.
Okay.
And DC. And
That's
Nice.
so
it
cool.
was awesome because I would go up there sometimes to work, but I ran a store down in DC, and it was really cool because I met John Waters a few times, but the last time I met him, I was like, I actually worked at that Video American from Serial Mom. And you go, oh my God, thank you so much for your hard, dedicated work. And it made me feel so good.
I would cry. Oh my God. He gets it though, because he gets it.
Right?
He
And I
gets what a
told him.
resource that is. Cause it's like, he's
Exactly.
like, you're one of the weirdos that holds that down, is what that's what he's saying. You know what I mean? They're like,
It was so
full of love.
And we got to talk about that video store in Baltimore. It was such a great experience.
But a question for you though, because my first job was also a video store when I lived in Las Vegas. So Video Time, TYME was my first job. What was the movie that you would recommend to people when they came in and be like, what should I watch?
You know what? I have like some really solid go-tos, but at the time I was recommending new releases mostly because that's what people would come in and want. And what I remember recommending the most was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, because that was like, when that came out, it was like my favorite movie I had ever seen. That and Kill Bill, I was always recommending. I probably recommended A Clockwork Orange a lot because I was obsessed with that movie until it got stolen, and they didn't replace it. We never got it replaced, and I was really upset about it. I like would bother the owners about it all the time. But they're like, it gets stolen too often. There were like these certain movies for like that criminal.
Oh, yeah.
They're like the criminal films. That still happens at Videotheque now. People always steal Harmony Korine and like Greg Araki films. All the dirtbag movies. You can't get people who like dirtbag films to bring them back to a video.
Oh no. Did that happen to you too, Julia?
No, that's just so on point. I just like such a burn, and like it's so specific and it's amazing.
I rent out Ken Park to someone and I'm like, I'll never see that again. Enjoy it. I bet you don't look at your voicemails.
No.
The voicemail box is full, and it will be for the end of time.
Yep.
So how did you go from watching film into making film?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because I'm really curious if you guys had this experience as well, since we're all like elder millennial Gen X cuspers of like, I wasn't raised to believe that like women could work in entertainment in any way outside of like being an actor. And not because my parents were liberal and progressive. And so they definitely had like the girls can do anything, but it was also like blue collar Cleveland. Everybody in my family worked in education and like city management, like there wasn't any, like, it was like, you need a job. It was very frivolous that you would like get involved into something like that, like a career. So like I did theater growing up and I like loved it. And I remember telling
too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes so much sense.
We met because we were studying theater in England. That's how we met, on the airplane on their way to London.
What? That's so sweet. You on the airplane? Were you sitting next to each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
My God, you guys were meant to be friends.
I know. Since 1999. This is us. Besties.
That's really sweet. I love that story. God, that's romantic. What a lovely friend story.
Yep.
Yeah. And we are big theater nerds as well. We were grew up doing theater.
So
this interview is
get
basically just finding out that we're the same person as you.
Yes,
right?
yeah, exactly.
I told Julia before you came on today, Lucé, I was like, Julia, I was like, this is the human that if you and I were to have a child, this is our child. This is our person. Because of like the sleaze that Julia also loves to tread into so hard as well. I know you're also in that, but yes, back to theater. Sorry, we digress.
I digress. Please, you can pick me up and put me on another track anytime. I am yours to mold. I'll always have something to say.
See, this is our child. I told you, Julia.
Well, I would like to hear a little bit about the theater that you did before we got into.
Yes. So there was a theater camp in my hometown called Pioneer Theater, and because my high school was the Elyria Pioneers, and so everything in our town was pioneer this, pioneer that. It was like living in Knott's Berry Farm, old West town. So it was every summer there was this day camp, this theater day camp that would be at the high school for kids, 5 through 18. And we put on one musical and one straight play, and they happened to, at the same time concurrently. And when you audition in the beginning of camp, you got put into one or the other. And then you were, every single day of this day camp was learning like what makeup is and how you do lights, how you do sound, and learning every aspect of theater in the mornings. then you'd have lunch, and in the afternoons you would go with your your group, whether you were with the musical or the straight play, and you would learn lines and practice and do the play. And then at the end of the summer, you would put both plays on at the local, there was a really big community college in my hometown that had this gorgeous theater. And it was great because we were kids, but we got to perform on this like giant.
The big kid theater. Yes.
Stage. Yeah. It was called Stocker Center. And I thought it sounded like so grown up. So I was almost always in the musical. So I did Little Abner, the Music Man, Meet Me in St. Louis. That was my first lines. The Pajama Game, a really cool union story. Anti-capitalist musical. A lot of people don't know about.
Yeah. I did it my senior year at high school. And it's how I got into UCLA, but that's another story we'll share for another day.
Do you get the song stuck in your head constantly? Because if somebody says
all of them,
I'm like that.
Pajama game is every time. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where I am if someone really says that word. Yep.
My trigger word. And then the straight play I was in was Aladdin. That was a wild one. And then I got my very first solo in Oliver. I was the nurse or the nanny, and she has a really great song when she's putting Oliver to sleep.
Yes.
So I was in Oliver twice. I did Arsenic and Old Lace twice. I was Abby Brewster both times. Murderous Old Lady.
Yes.
Those. I know there was more. We did The Wizard of Oz. Hello Dolly. Yeah.
So you had a whole.
I was Rizzo in Grease.
Oh, pretty bitchin'.
Yeah.
You were a bad girl. I love that.
Oh, yeah, 2 solos.
Yeah.
All of this, and she can sing. Come on now.
She can sing. I will also want to quote Simpsons stuff occasionally while we're talking as well. Sorry.
Throw it in. Anything you want. This is your
all good.
Spotlight.
So this led you to being in movies. How did you parlay this theater career to cinema?
Yeah, so I went to college to study theater. I didn't like my college theater program. It was like during the Iraq War. So I got really into activism and protesting. And I ended up connecting with a lot of women in our women's studies program. And I just loved them. And so I went into the women's studies program, but still really loved film and theater. So I kept taking classes, but just not focused as a major anymore. And for women's studies, they were like, well, you need to pick a focus. So I picked my focus on film. And I became friends with a ton of the people in the film program. There were really only a couple of women at the time. And I became kind of discouraged by, the kinds of ideas I had, stuff I wanted to make. I just kind of kept hitting walls and people, really not being interested in it. Professors not being interested in it.
The guys don't get it.
No, a lot of the problem, there's so many problems. One of the problems with being brought up in a patriarchal white supremacist society is that if you're not in line with the mainstream, your stories, your experiences don't exist. It's like the white cis het male experience is the experience that we all have to rally around and somehow map our life onto. But the second they have to be oh, people were raised differently, they have different cultural experiences based on the way they look and feel and act and experience their history, no, I don't like that. It doesn't make sense. That has been my experience for so much of my life because I've always been very outspoken. I was raised by a very feminist parent. I have my own style. So people either love it or I'm hit with so much intensive misogyny and homophobia. And I think that that was really difficult for me in college because I had all these ideas and I wanted to make stuff, but I couldn't meet other people who wanted to make stuff like I did. Everything, I was just told that everything was stupid, basically, that my ideas were really frivolous. So I spent a lot of time.
I bet they were really sexy ideas too. I bet you had a lot of really fun ideas.
Thank you.
I bet they were kind of slutty and cool, is my guess.
Thank you so much, Teri.
Yeah.
People did not like a slutty 20-year-old girl in the 2000s. I'll tell you what.
I mean,
they
there's
wanted to
always room
fuck
for them, I
her,
think.
But yeah, exactly. They want to fuck her, but they don't want to listen to her.
They don't want to
you
listen to
know?
her being empowered. They just, yeah.
The second she wants to be the boss, they're like, no, like you better as an object. So I became really close with the women in my women's studies program, and I learned how to write about film. So I went from like kind of being interested in being involved in the performance and the creation of it to being like learning how to see films through a feminist lens like broke open my world, because I loved movies and without really knowing a lot of how to look at a film critically, I could feel the feminist messages in simple films like Practical Magic and like even like Adam's Family Values. I could feel the stuff in there that was empowering and exciting to me, the craft, without necessarily knowing that it was intentional or knowing that there was a whole way to like read film. So when I learned that in my classes, it felt like this secret language. And all of a sudden I was seeing all of these ideas pour out of film in a way that I had no idea you could access film like that. You could access film like a book or another piece of like visual art, not just entertainment. And that got me way more excited than performing had at that point. And I was so encouraged by my professors who were in the more like the writing, more encouraged by writing than I was by like creation. So, I got really into taking film and doing critical film theory from a feminist perspective and like writing about that. So that's how I became obsessed with film, sort of like learning about it. And then like, this is old internet. So I used to like publish, like I had a blog and I would like publish film reviews and I would like, publish film stuff in like feminist blogs that don't exist anymore. I have all this writing that's just like gone. Did that happen to you guys?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like I was a person before like 2010.
Isn't it wild? Like the archival systeming and all that kind of stuff like that. I think it is really, really interesting. Like if you don't have any physical pieces of certain things, there is just that lost era of stuff. I think that's
bring
why
our MySpace blogs back. I wrote
oh my God, we worked so hard on those.
Yeah.
But like, outside of the Wayback Machine and things that are not saved in that, it is really hard. There is that whole like era. I think that's why we're all probably obsessed with physical media still too, because we lived through that portion of that part of our upbringing where I'm like, I know where I have like film that's just gone because I don't have the DV cards anymore, whatever. Like I don't have a way to like access some of those old pictures and things like that too. There is a whole era that's kind of gone.
I know. I have a laptop from like 15 years ago that I'm just holding on to. So
same.
Someday
someone will crack the code. Yeah. I have one of those in my storage unit. Absolutely same thing. About 15 years old.
That makes me feel so good. Thank you, Teri.
Yeah, I mean, of course, working in a video store, physical media is all right there. And I also I made a documentary out of print about the importance of 35 millimeter film as well as a preservation media, because that's something that as you're
it's more stable than digital.
And when digital's up, where does it go? We don't know. Like, and then the horror of lost film, it like breaks my heart.
It haunts me.
Yeah.
Yes. I know. I love when Criterion will put something out and they're like, we found pieces of this film that didn't exist before. Like when the Island of Lost Souls film came out on Criterion in like 2011 or 2012. They had put together like pieces of film that had previously thought to have been lost. And it was like the most complete version of that film that's been seen since it was in the theater in the early 30s.
Wow.
And I remember just being so blown away by that and so excited about that. And then, it's always playing in my mind, kind of like cracking the code on what's on our old laptops, but like in what box is there like a piece of something that's just been missing, something we thought was gone. The Phantom Carriage, is it somewhere?
We discovered that. I mean, you've seen Dawson City Frozen Time, right?
Yeah.
The documentary about finding all of those films in the ice.
So
and that it's such a beautiful film, but just the thought of finding these movies that everyone thought were lost, and now we get to see even 30 seconds of it. It's incredible.
Exactly.
That gave me goosebumps just now. So there we are.
Yes, that's the kind of like, buried treasure kind of thing I like to think of. Like, I don't need a lot of jewels and scepters. I just need to find a box of old film that people thought was lost.
Yes.
That is the grail. That's our holy grail. There we go.
Yeah,
Cinema grails.
So I spent, I wrote about film a lot. I got really into, and then I, just kept working at video stores. I kept watching films and writing about films, and theater, throughout college, I kept doing improv because I learned improv in high school in my high school theater program. And then when I moved to DC, there was a really great theater improv program there at the DC Improv. So I started performing there, and I was on a team in DC. And then from there, a friend of mine was like, the kinds of like the way that you talk and the way that you do monologues for improv, you should consider doing stand-up. So in 2010, my friend took me around to open mics, and I started doing stand-up in DC. And then I got really into that. And I obviously I kept working at the video store. Film was such a huge part of my life still. And I started doing like jokes about film, and like incorporating film into my stand-up. And then a bunch of my friends from DC who are comedians moved to LA. So then I came out here. And at this time, I still, and of course now things are digital, but like the iPhone had only been out I had only just gotten an iPhone like 6 months before I moved to LA in 2012. So like the idea of like filming your own stuff, it just still seems so inaccessible to me. I never grew up with much money, and I never really liked working jobs that gave you money, I guess. Like I like
we get it. It's hard.
Yeah, I just feel like being in the office. I'm not interested in that type of career, like planning and building and climbing. I'm interested in artistic careers, and writing. So I've always just gotten by with very little and not worried too much about it. But in that way, filmmaking always seemed like a rich person hobby. And that's me being colloquial or like, broad. It just seemed like that on a 25-year-old's mind,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I could never buy a camera. Like that's for rich kids. So then, come out to LA, I start doing improv at UCB. I've been with UCB since 2012. And I think in like at that point, I am meeting kids from all over the place, and rich kids and kids who studied film and went to better schools. I just went to a state school. I loved it. But kids who went to nice schools that like really learned shit. And I'm working on projects with them, and we're doing sketches, and we're filming sketches, and I'm seeing how stuff is made. And suddenly I'm realizing this isn't just an inaccessible hobby for like the pampered. Like you can actually do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I would have realized it if I hadn't come here and been completely immersed in it. And I was meeting interesting women and queer people and trans people who I felt were my people, the people that I had been hanging out with since I was a teenager, punks, underground people. And I think when I started finding those people and realizing that like I didn't need to depend on the auditions I was going on, I didn't have to depend on UCB. I didn't need these larger structures to give me a career. I could actually build my own work. That was like the first time I started doing like working on other people's stuff was like in 2013. And then I made my own web series in 2016. And then from there, I was just like, oh, I can do this. So in the scheme of things, hasn't been that long, but I really credit moving to LA and being exposed to so many more people and people who are really ambitious and didn't let stories from their childhood or stories from people that didn't have their best interests in mind get to them, like they were really, I really love LA for how ambitious people are. And I think people can be really cynical about that and be like, oh, it's all ladder climbing here, it's all fake. Of course, people are like that here, but they are like that in every big city.
Correct.
Like, really creative, incredible people like you guys come here to see other creatives, to connect with other people. And like, I have lived in several cities and been in many different types of creative like enclaves, and nothing has ever been as inspiring and encouraging and accessible to it as Los Angeles for me. And like when I'm here, I feel like I can do anything, and now I've been able to like, I think about myself as a filmmaker now because I've made small films, and now I realize I don't have to be Steven Spielberg. But as a 20-something in college, I was like, well, I could never be Steven Spielberg, so I can't be a filmmaker.
So you give up. There's
different. I was always like, it had to be like really, really high, and I was always going to be down here. And now I'm like, oh, actually, I could be like here. He can be all the way up here, but I can actually still be a really talented filmmaker here, and that's great.
Yeah, I know the same feeling. Like I remember the first time I watched Children of Men, and then I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I bothering? Like I can't. There's
One
no
of
point.
the greatest movies of the millennium.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, forget it, Julia. You'll never. And like, no, you never will. That's fine.
Yeah,
it's already
that's
been made. You do your own thing. But I want to hear.
I think it's so hard. Like one of my besties, my friend Joe Pinzon, we talk about this a lot. And it's like, it's not that you're bad at what you're doing, whatever. It's like that you have your taste level so high that it's daunting when your taste, like, you know what's possible. Like we've seen the mountaintops. We've consumed collectively so much media between all of us as well. And we've just seen the best of everything too, I feel like. And so when you've seen all of that, you're comparing yourself to that. You don't have to do that. We are here, you know, our eventually, you know, I hope eventually one day my skill level will meet my taste as well too.
My skill level will
You know
be
what I mean though?
my
But in the meantime, we make what
love
we
that.
can, and we do the best with what we're given and what we have access to right now. And we keep building.
Well, you
And
know,
I think
I
it's
find
yeah.
being like a DIY filmmaker really empowering right now. I mean,
Sure.
I am so sick of hearing people being like, film is dead, you know, like film is over. And like, not from where I sit. I really resent that because I know my experience isn't every woman's experience or every queer person's experience, but that's the world that I've been in my whole life. So like from where I sit, marginalized people have only have had access to things at the level that we're doing them now for like 10 years.
Yep.
Obviously there's been people making films forever, but like we're seeing like women of color and queer women and just like trans women making
No,
films.
it's a revolution. Like we just went to a screening a couple weeks ago at the Academy Museum, the Vegas in Space screening, which was incredible.
Oh, cool.
Because that's a DIY, you know, from the 80s, like not finished till it took them 8 years to finish because it was, you know, access and like all that stuff, like as queer people, as drag artists, as, you know, performers, and seeing that's like, I feel like those are like, you know, our forefathers of making something. And it took them years to get done what we can do, you know, in a week now. I feel like, do you know what I mean though, as far as like the fact that we have a phone on our, you know, on our, you know, a phone that has a camera that has better resolution than, you know, half of those film cameras back then too. There's a lot more opportunity for us to make things, and I am intrigued and excited. And I think it's again like the 90s again too, where it's like the Sundance of it all, like the independent cinema, because we've been inundated with superhero movies and, you know, all this kind of blockbuster stuff like that. The middle has fallen out. We're the ones that are here to catch, you know, all of us weirdos on this other side, making what we can. We know how to make DIY stuff. We're going to be the ones that are going to continue to make things no matter what.
Exactly. I don't need $5 million. Well, we
right.
$5 million.
Would love it.
Of course. But like, let me show you what I can do with $100,000.
Yep.
Like, I don't need. Yeah.
Tell us how you did that. You finally were like, I'm going to write it direct to myself. And after someone who's watched as many movies as you are and has the range to write a story from any perspective you want, what made you decide to make the movies you made?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So my first film, Messed Up, is a 8-minute film, and it came from just an idea from a past bad relationship that I was in. And it was kind of just like a little joke that I had, because I'm like, you guys were collectors, right? You have so much physical media. I have so much physical media. And my ex, who I lived with when I first moved to DC, or excuse me, we moved from DC to LA together. He's one of those people, I don't know if you've ever dated anybody like this before, but like, he acted like he liked me, but it just seemed like he didn't like anything about me. Like he was with me all the time, but he would always nag my stuff or comment on my outfits, or like, you know, like I was like, do you just like having sex with me? Do you like being seen with me? Because you don't actually seem to like what makes me me, you know? Mm-hmm. He would just be like, you got to get rid of some of these tapes. You have too many tapes. And not to be like,
to the curb,
stuff defines you, but like, my collections are a big part of who I am, you know, like I love preserving stuff. I love this stuff. It's my favorite stuff in the world. Like I'm me, but it is also me. So if you want to get rid of that stuff, it feels like you want to get rid of part of me. You're trying to make me smaller, you know? Yeah. So I had this sort of like fantasy that like, you know, of course, because we're inundated with horror films, that like a serial killer who would like break into our house would kill him first, but I would be able to get away because I knew my way around all of my little piles and my stuff, and I could like hide in a pile of my junk.
Yes.
So I decided to basically make that into a film where the relationship is, I have a very similar couple who the guy is really hard on the girl, and when a killer breaks into their house, he gets murdered, and she's able to thwart him because the killer keeps like slipping and falling and breaking through things and getting old cereal milk spilled on him and like a ton of like real slapsticky stuff. So because I was at UCB, I got 4 close friends of mine, and I put together like an outline, and I was like, these are the beats, this is all I want to happen, these are the lines I need you to say, but after this, like, this is going to be very slapsticky, and I want to direct you through how this is going to go, but you're the funniest comedians that I know, so like you can improvise a lot of the dialogue as long as these specific lines are being hit at these times. So in one day they came over. I had just moved into the apartment that I'm in now, 8 years ago, and we were only halfway unpacked. So I kind of unpacked boxes in an even messier way and like set stuff up and like piled things up really high. And we just shot in my apartment with all of my stuff for an entire day. And called it Messed Up, and it did really well. We send it to festivals. It took like 6 months maybe to edit and get together, and I had to learn how to kind of do all that stuff because I'd never done it before. And then I sent it to festivals, and it did great in festivals for like 2 years. And even now I get people reaching out who say that somebody recommended they reach out to me and that they want to program Messed Up. Like, it played in 2 festivals last year. Oh, wow. And it was finished in 2018, but it like keeps getting attention, which is really fun because it was like a $1,000 movie. Like I said, I think we shot for like 8 hours. We had maybe an hour of footage that we, got down to like 8 to 10 minutes. And it was truly like every single person was volunteering and like getting paid below their, what their wages would be for something that was a larger project.
Yeah.
And, my college boyfriend, who I met through doing film and that we did a lot of projects with in college together, he moved out to LA before I did. We broke up in a friendly way. I moved out here, and then we started working together again. And he actually is the reason I was able to shoot it, because he owned a camera and he knew how to do all this stuff. And I knew he did from college. And we had this whole language already established between us, and things were so really lovely between us, like very, like the most ideal platonic romantic friendship where we just knew everything about each other and had this shared brain still, but didn't have any weird sex stuff getting in the way, Mm-hmm. And so we were able to make this film together, and then he
awesome.
taught me about editing and did a bunch of that stuff. And he's been a huge inspiration to me because he's also queer and has always been like, yeah, you can do this. Yeah, whatever. It's just very much like nothing can stop you. Encouraged all my weird ideas. And we still work together. I just worked with him over the weekend on something. And he's still encouraging all my weird ideas. It's really nice.
Aww, I love that.
Yeah, a true love. One of the great loves of my life. I'm very lucky that we met each other when we did, because I think we've been extrememe positive impact on each other.
And so
we get it.
Your other film, we do. Your Surprise. Can you tell us about Surprise?
Yes. Okay. So Surprise, I'm very proud of. I love Surprise so much. Surprise is a movie that I wish I would have had like $20,000 or $30,000 to put into it, because there are things about it that I know are 100% could be better, but it was budget. We did Surprise for like $8,000, a 5-day shoot. It's a 30-minute featurette, and it a lot of people being like donating time. But I'm like, man, I wonder if we would have been able to get like platters, or if we would have been able to get like more lights, or if we would have been able to shoot for a week instead of 5 days. There's like all these like things that like pop up in my mind.
There's always going to be notes, honey. Doesn't matter how big it is. There's always going to be notes.
I know. No. Of course. But I think it stands so well. What I've always tried to do with my work is be like, I have a full vision. Like, I do everything from like, I am thinking about the color. I'm thinking about the tone. I'm thinking about the set deck. I'm thinking about the costuming. Like, this isn't, because I filmed a ton of sketches and stuff through comedy, and that's always just about the writing, but I wanted to show that I can put a whole film together. I don't have a lot of money, so there are going to be some things that are like creaky, but like what the vision is fucking there, and so I'm really proud of the vision of Surprise. And that is a dark kind of horror comedy about a group of kind of power obsessed young women in their 30s who have that toxic positivity kind of girl boss mindset that gets challenged when they witness a murder and their whole worldview like kind of goes awry.
Yes. We need more of that.
I just,
wake them up. Wake them up.
Obviously, yeah, feminism is so ingrained in me. It's a big part of every single thing that I do. And, I have a really big problem with the way that feminism has been co-opted and sort of reimagined as this way for women to have individual success. And that if a woman is the president or a woman is the CEO, that's feminist, it's not, because these structures of power are inherently not feminist. Like hierarchies are not feminist, and so there's so much like corporate lingo and like just stuff about consumerism and buying and so much individual focus that I feel like I've seen in films about women for like the last decade, and I was just fucking sick of it. I made it out of anger, and I wanted to be like, listen, women are just as shitty as men are in totally different, like feminine ways. But like, there are women holding each other back also. And I find them even scarier because men, I already have a wide breadth with, and I already am very much like, you can earn your way out of jail, but I tend to let my guard down around women and queer people and trans people. And so if they become the one who's carrying water for the patriarchy or they sell me out, I find that extra scary and disturbing.
It's brutal. Yeah, it's brutal.
So I wanted to explore that with Surprise and explore the intricacies of female friendships and hierarchies that exist in female friendships and how feminism and the language of feminism can be used to oppress and wield power, even though it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
And then how did your podcast come about? You have It's Always Halloween coming around in 2020.
One of the top recommended podcasts on Apple Podcasts this last year for quite some time.
Yes,
Huge deal.
That was so exciting. Yeah, that was such a thrill. I cried for several days.
Yeah.
That was because of the pandemic. I had in the back of my mind, I've been a podcast guest since 2014, 2015, when it kind of started being a little more accessible to people, and going on comedy podcasts and film podcasts, because that was my area of expertise. But because I always loved Halloween, I had in the back of my mind that every Halloween I would be looking for a podcast to listen to that had some deep dive into history and background, because I love doing the deep dives on film. And I really want that for everything I'm interested in. I'm let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's get into some cultural experiences and background, and where does this word come from, and where does this tradition and this habit come from. And every year there'd be one or two things, but I was just really hungry for more. So when lockdown happened and I had time because I wasn't doing stand-up or improv, I tried it on Zoom. It was not fun. I'm sure, I know it worked for some people, but it made me feel desperate and despicable. I just felt so hello. I just felt alone, I hope you like my little jokes in your little box. It just it made my skin crawl. And I love that I had friends who made money from it. And I'm very envious that they had that their brain was organized in the way where they could do that. But my brain needs to be I need to be on stage and look at people. I need to make that contract of a joke together,
Yeah.
So losing that, I was doing that every night of the week. I had a monthly show back then that, we lost all of that. The theaters I performed at had closed, some permanently. And I was girl's got to get on the mic or she's going to fade away. If you don't clap for Tinkerbell, she dies. So I was okay, I am going to start this idea where I wanted to do short, bite-sized, 10 to 15 minute episodes, deep diving Halloween history and traditions. I wanted to just go as far into a question I had as possible. I'm I want to take this back to the beginning. What is the beginning, and just getting really into studying and reading history, which was always just a fun thing for me. I studied history in college, but not just a few classes, and I loved it. But it was as always is a fun hobby. So I was I'm going to expand this hobby finally, that I can't leave the house. And And then I was like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to have like a call-in component? Because my friend Stephen Ray Morris has this really fun show, See Jurassic Right, that's all about Jurassic Park, the franchise, and then dinosaurs in general and other dinosaur films. And he has a hotline for people to call to like talk about dinosaur stuff. And I thought that was so cool. And I was like, how do you do that? I want to set up a hotline for Halloween stuff. So just Google Voice. But I got that set up, and I, started this podcast where I was like, okay, I'm going to do a history episode every week. And then I'm going to do like a call-in email episode to have people send in their own stories about their own Halloween history. And it took off very quickly, much faster than I was expecting, into like 20,000 like listeners and people from all over the world reaching out, dozens of emails every day. And the interesting thing was, without me, I wasn't very personal in the first, 6 months of the podcast, but I was finding out that like me and my producer's gay. And we were finding out that like we were getting a ton of like queer and trans listeners. We were like, God, this is so interesting.
Because Halloween's a religion in our culture.
And also about making up to be whoever you want to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had never thought that stuff through critically before. I mean, I knew all my friends, my cohort loved that shit, but I didn't think about that as speaking to a whole world of people, and a lot of Halloween history is such that it was almost eradicated as a holiday due to like ethnocentrism and religious supremacy. So like the Roman Catholics, pagan is just a word that the Roman Catholics came up with to, call everybody who wasn't Catholic or Christian pagan. Like that's bad, to demonize them essentially. So there were, thousands of different practices and religions that the Celtic people throughout, what we know of as Europe now practiced. It wasn't just like witchcraft, but the Roman Catholics were like, we got to fucking get rid of this. Everyone's got to be Catholic. So when they're not Catholic, we murder them. So they went on that big murder spree, couldn't get to Ireland because it was an island. And there we get the birth of Halloween just because of water. Just because the Roman Catholic,
the border of water saving us and giving us a beautiful holiday. Yeah.
Exactly. But if we would have had this like oppressive religious majority, we would have never had Halloween. Right. And like then when the Irish immigrants brought it over to America in like the 1700s, in the early 1800s, the Victorians hated that shit. And the like WASPy, the northern people really hated it. And they thought that they were basically like poor bumpkins. And they tried to turn Halloween into a romantic holiday because they thought that the scary stuff was like gross, essentially. And they were like, let's make it about like fortune telling and like women finding husbands. And so that was a big focus of Halloween for a while.
Wow.
Like people were like, I don't want to do that. I want to throw a wagon on someone's garage, like on somebody's barn, like we're going to start doing pranks. And then Victorians hated pranks. They were like so low class, so disgusting, but pranks ended up winning out, and then at that point it's like when trick or treat started, because it was like, okay, well, we can't have people pranking constantly. We need kids focused on another activity, So it's like all of these little and there's so much stuff I'm not talking about. It's so quick that I'm running through this, but there's all these moments in history for the last 2,000 years where hating the way another culture was, hating someone's, religious or cultural freedoms, hating that people were not in the mainstream, like all of those things almost eradicated this holiday that we love so much. So I have always come at Halloween from the perspective that it's an incredibly progressive, inclusive holiday that's actually free from religious performance. It's like really one of the few celebrations that we have other than like New Year's Eve, which is interesting because Halloween started as a New Year's Eve celebration. But it's one of the only ones that's like that's sprung from religion. It's truly open to everyone. And when we trick or treat and stuff, we're saying to our community, come to my house. I'm going to give you food and drink, and I'm going to entertain you with a show and with decor. Like Christmas is not really like that. We bring our family in, and like maybe people who are like actually thoughtful will help the poor, but like they don't all come out on one night and be like, come to my house, come to my door. That is community oriented. I think Halloween is such a beautiful holiday in that way. And I have really banged that drum and tried to focus on that with the podcast. And that has built a really intensive following and community. and a lot of really scary neo-Nazis who think that I'm ruining Halloween and that I'm like a dumb feminist bitch who's trying to be a social justice warrior and ruin Halloween for them. So
well, you are a social justice warrior, but in the best possible way. And I think that we're all redheads now because we love Halloween. I think that's we're honoring the Irish heritage that has brought us here today. That's what I think is all the through line for all of us here. Lucé, this has been incredible. I feel like I've learned so much.
I just spent the whole time like lecturing you guys.
No, well, that's why we brought you here. This is an interview. That's how an interview works. We ask a couple of things, and I was like, Lucé's perfect. You're the perfect guest because we wind you up and you just go. It's incredible. We have a couple more questions for you before we are done here. We're getting close to the end of our time. One, because we always are collecting recommendations at all times for films, cinema, all that kind of stuff. Some of our best recommendations have come from our guest here that we go back and use on our podcast as well, Horror Movie Survival Guide. So do you have a recommendation for us, cinematically speaking, that you would love to give to us, like some horror movie recommendation for us?
Sure. Oh my gosh. You guys are so knowledgeable. I feel like I need to.
No, but you also are like font of knowledge as well. We acknowledge that, which is why, we get in our own sandboxes sometimes. So let us know if there's something that you,
I love when women are like driven to the brink of sanity by like a cruel society. That's sort of like my like House of Psychotic Women, like my bread and butter. So I'm sure you've seen these, but these are my go-to recommendations at work. I love Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Okay.
And Messiah of Evil.
Okay. We haven't
covered either one of those on our show yet.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Okay, they're both.
And Jessica's been on my list, I think, for a little bit too, my personal list. So that is.
I did
that up.
You did it. They're both from. I want to say they're both from '73. Jessica might be '74. But they're both like, they're eerie, they're atmospheric. As I've gotten older, I've gotten less interested in, so I was always really into like slashers and those types of like 80s sort of horror stuff. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten really into 70s and like stuff that's like very atmospheric. I've really been obsessed with Giallo for like the last 5-6 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one of my favorites there is Torso.
Yep.
And The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward.
Torso might be on our list later this year for the Giallo Days. I will drop that for the deep cut people because we're doing Giallo Days, the Happy Giallo Days later this year. It is programmed because we are friends. We have some friends at Arrow Player out of Arrow Video that sent me this last year a huge care package of Giallo.
That
Blu-rays.
Torso is gorgeous. It's so nice because before that it was just on a Blue Underground DVD and it was missing it's like this. If this is our screen, like it was like just this. Like it was missing like all this. And don't watch the Blue Underground DVD. You have to watch the Arrow Torso. It is.
I have the Arrow Torso. I got it. I got it in my hot little hands.
Okay.
Yes.
Carpenter has never referenced it before, but I swear there's at least 3 shots in Torso that feel like they inspired shots in Halloween. Like
feels
like a precursor to Halloween. I would be curious, if you
I'm going to keep an eye out for that with that in mind. And
so,
we have one more Julia.
Question.
Yeah. Ask her.
Our big question we ask all of our guests here, since we are working on this show with the George A. Romero Foundation, we always ask, how has George A. Romero made an impact on your life?
Yes, I love that question. I was hoping that it would come up. So Night of the Living Dead, probably one of the first horror movies that I saw not by choice, because my mom got me up to watch the I Know What You Did Last Summer and they rented these scary cartoons for me as a kid. But Night of the Living Dead was just on TV one afternoon when I was flipping and black and white, and because I loved musicals and my family brought me up with classic film, I loved black and white movies. I was never a kid that was ugh, boring. I was like, oh cool, this is going to be this is a black and white movie I've never heard of before. I'm going to hang out and watch it. And I was so intrigued by it was very in the beginning, right? I grew up across the street from a graveyard. So like, that's also part of my origin story. I love cemeteries. I learned how to skate. I learned how to ride my bike there. My friends and I used to play tag. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I
Incredible.
adore cemeteries. I think they're peaceful and lovely. And so the part that I, had turned it on, it was, they were in the cemetery and I was like, oh, I like cemeteries. Sure. And it was, I don't know how old was I, maybe 9 or 10. And I was like, oh, it's spooky. I could tell that it was spooky, but I was like, oh, this is like an old horror movie. Fun. I think maybe at that time I had watched House on Haunted Hill and some of the like Vincent Price movies with my mom. And so I thought it was going to be like that. And I keep watching and I get to the point and it's like, it's fucking scary. That's a really scary movie. It's still very scary. I love the Criterion release of that, by the way. Gorgeous. The way, when you think about how it's like for years, I was just watching it on like a little tube TV. And now you see it on Criterion, and it's amazing. So it got to the point where the girl comes back to life, the girl who's like on all the shirts. The girl comes back to life and kills her mom with the trowel. It scared me so much. It was so unexpected. It was so violent for like regular television in the afternoon, that I like jumped and like I did that thing, where I was like scrambling for the remote to like turn it off. And I just remember like sitting there and being like, feeling like I was watching something I wasn't supposed to be watching. And then also feeling like something was behind me. And it's like as light as it is outside right now is fucking daylight. I'm in a family room with a bay window and a patio. There's not, sun streaming in, squirrels are outside. I was so chilled to my fucking bone. I like couldn't handle it. I think I like actually went outside to go to my friend's house next door to be like, we have to do something. I can't be in the house right now. I'm not going to the cemetery either.
Wow.
So I have like, for years I was like, oh, I can't watch that movie. It's so scary. Until I got to college and this boyfriend, my friend Warren, who I've been talking about, showed it to me. And I was like, no, I can't watch it. It's too scary. And he's like, no, you're going to like it. It's like about racism. It's actually really interesting. And so then I was like, because I was in that critical frame of mind that I had been, learning how to develop in college, I was like, oh, what? This is a smart movie, that is like a horror flick.
It's not just scary, it's smart. I love that.
Now we know that you can actually critically analyze any movie, really. There's no movie that's beyond analysis, but it is smart. And that's when I got into who George Romero was and realizing that he really cared about feminist issues. And, that's when I found Season of the Witch, which is like,
our fave.
And like, and I just really, I found him to be such an interesting, compelling man. And, I grew up in Ohio, probably about like 2 hours so from Pittsburgh, and like go to Pennsylvania a lot. And I loved his, DIY spirit and the fact that he made stuff just in Pittsburgh and not just, but you know what I mean? I think sometimes that was like the center of the universe and you can't do stuff in a small town. And I really, really liked that and admired him so much. And it really inspired me a lot at a young age. And I just think he did a lot with a little. And I think about his work and I watch his work all the time when I need to be reminded that I don't, even if I only have $8,000, even if I have $10,000, I can make something really fucking awesome. And it doesn't need to always be like, the Steven Spielberg $100,000 or $100 million movie.
I love that you've name checked today John Waters and then also George Romero as far as our DIY regional filmmakers, if you will.
Yes,
do you know what I mean? Though, like, and then
that
that spirit, I think, in all of us, as the next gen, absolutely inspired by all of that. And I love that you gave me Season of the Witch as my clip. When I was at Video Visions, I did the comedy show last year. Lucé did not know about this show and this collaboration that we have, and like the fact that that's one of our favorite movies, and we champion that. That's one we recommend a lot too, just because it's such a great film.
I love that. I'll talk a little bit about Video Visions if I can, real quick.
Yeah.
So
this is the plug section right now, so this is great. Yes, tell us all the things.
Which is one of the last thriving video stores here in Los Angeles. It's in the Highland Park neighborhood.
Yes.
We've been a video store since 2000, so almost 25 years. And so, we're going strong. And we have a micro cinema where we show films on Friday nights. And then I do a comedy show on the fourth Thursday of every night where I blend stand up with cinema, because I'm like, okay, both of these things I'm very passionate about. How can I like put my hands together, you know?
Yes.
And
and recently written about in the Los Angeles Times. So I just got to shout that out.
Yes,
This was huge.
thank you.
Beautiful
What?
article in the LA Times this last month for Pride Month. So cool.
They did. They recommended us as one of 11 things to do during Pride, which
Nice.
felt really, really special. And they published a really hot picture of me too, which I was also
Yes,
Into it.
correct.
And I'm
Into
like,
it.
not me looking sexy in the LA Times, not with my leg out. Oh, hell yeah. So it's really fun. I pick me and my co-host Ellie Racemore, who was in Messed Up and Surprise with me, who is an incredible improviser, comedian, and a big muse for me because she is so fun to work with. I give her an idea and then she takes it so much further and more intense than I even thought of. So a long time, we've collaborated on stuff for 11 years now. So we have this show together. We pick clips around a theme every month. So last month it was Pride. The month Terry was on for a Season of the Witch themed month. And then what was the other one? Was it Mother's Day? You've been on another one and I'm trying.
Yeah, I can't remember.
No?
Oh, no, I should have been on the musical one, but that's okay. No, it was the World Series week, or it was like a baseball day or something like that. We did
we did their own for women
it was
directors.
Women's History Month.
History Month, yes, because A League of Their Own was the theme.
Yeah.
And so then we did all films directed by women. So this month, July, it's our year anniversary, July 24th. So we're doing all party films. The theme is Party Girl. So we picked 6 films with a party theme. No one knows what they are except for me and Ellie. We have 6 comedians, and we will surprise those comedians on stage with the audience with those clips. They're all like 2 to 5 minutes long. And then the comedian has to improvise stand-up off of the clip that they get. But it's this great opportunity. You know, we present the clip, we talk about the director, the writer, I mean, kind of a little history about the clip, a little bit of context if it's needed. And so I like to inject some film history in there. And I like, you know, we mix it up with some films people have heard of, but I really like to try to stump people, not in like a gotcha way, but in a way where I want to introduce people to film, and I want them to see that, like, you know, Videotheque has 50,000 movies. So streaming, all told, there's like 20,000 movies. Like, we have more than twice as many films at our store that exist online. I'm really, one of my biggest pet peeves is hearing people say that everything is streaming, because it's not.
It's not.
The very anti-artistic, anti-intellectual perspectives. And I know a lot of people who say that are not ill-willed and aren't necessarily anti-intellectual or anti-art, but we need to stop repeating things like this, because we are giving into this fascist idea that art isn't important and that everything should be accessible and everything should be this like easy slap to just consume. Everything is content. It's not. You know, even YouTube isn't just content. People are doing really important work here. You guys are doing really important work. We need to not devalue what we're doing by calling it that, you know? So like we need to like make the effort to go out to video stores to get stuff. We need to find films that aren't.
We do it all the time, because there's certain videos or movies that we can't find that I'm like, I go to the library, I go find, you know, I go see you. And I go, I'm looking for this thing. Or I'm like, can you please order this?
I run to the front door. My Terry is here.
Yes. I love that so much. Yes.
I love that you guys care about that stuff so much, and you like put the hard work into it. And like, you know, we bring up A League of Their Own. One of my all-time favorite film quotes is when Tom Hanks, you know, Gina Davis says she's leaving the Peaches because things just got too hard. It got too hard. And he said, the hard is what makes it good. It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. And I think that is such a great quote. And I want everyone who cares about film and art and horror to like embrace that, you know, and to be like, it's okay that things are hard. We don't need convenience all the time. We're smart people. We're curious people. That requires work, tenacity, effort. We don't need to constantly be making things every minute of every day. We can put time into it. We can let things we can stretch time out and enjoy the making of it. You know, we need to have time for these conversations. We can't connect like this in a couple of minutes over a TikTok video. Not that that doesn't have its place. I'm not trying to like eradicate what we've done. I'm just trying to say we need to not eradicate the connection, you know, like how would we have all this stuff to talk about if we didn't have lives to live and we didn't have stuff that we were going out and doing? You can't make art if you don't take that time to go out and do stuff, if you don't have time to research, if you don't have time to expose yourself to like all of the ways that people like live and experience the world, you know. I'm very passionate about all of
yes.
Lucé,
it.
what a way to end this beautiful show. That was
Thank you.
a clarion call to all you creatives out there thinking you cannot do it. That you are a creative spirit, a creative soul. Take the time it
Oh,
takes.
thank
Make
you.
the thing you need to make. Do it
Yes.
yourself if you need to.
Yes, don't
Give
wait
us.
for anybody to give you permission.
No,
That's
yeah,
the first
we're done with that. We are
advice.
done with
Do not
that.
wait. No
We
one
give you
else knows
permission today is what I
permission.
tell my students. I've been teaching on camera TV technique at UCLA this summer, and I just tell them, I give you permission now to make the things you want to make. You don't have
Yes.
to wait. If you're waiting for that person, I'm the person. You're welcome. Go. And so
Aw.
I'm constantly giving that out. So I will give that to our audience as well.
That makes me
Lucé, can you
so
tell
happy.
them? Yes,
Sorry,
of
people do
course.
need to hear that. That's so great that you're
Yes.
doing that, Terry. I bet you're changing people's lives. You don't even
I'm
know.
working on it one student at a time, but can you tell our audience, tell everyone where to find you,
Yes.
plug your things and where we can find you.
Thank you. Okay, well, you can find me on Instagram at LTB Comedy. I also have, work on Twitter, but I haven't been there forever, and I haven't felt like setting up any other new social media outlets. But I am very active on Instagram at LTB Comedy and at It's Always Halloween podcast. You can listen to It's Always Halloween wherever podcasts are found. But I recommend starting from the beginning because the episodes really do build on each other. And I'm just coming off of a little hibernating break where I was taking the time to develop new work. And I had been going for so long. I totally burnt out. I was going through some personal stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm taking this time. So the podcast is going to be coming back because we're about 100 days away from Halloween. So like the season
That's right.
starting.
Summerween is happening right now.
Yes.
We love Summerween.
Exactly.
This is this most exciting time, the final quarter, if you will, before Halloween.
I love this is my favorite time when it like you can feel the sparkles of it coming. So the new episodes are coming, but definitely go back, start from the beginning if you've never listened. And Videotheque is in Highland Park. Please visit us there. You can also check it out on Instagram. And the show is Video Visions or Visions Video on Instagram. And that's the fourth Thursday of every month. The next one's July 24th. 8 p.m.
Which is the same day this episode is coming out. So
you
can go. They can go. You can, if you're in LA, hop on over to Highland Park and go see the show. I'm in it. And
my productions, Too Much Productions. We've made 3 films, a few music videos, some sketches, and a film festival. So you can go to Too Much Productions on Instagram also. And but I post all my stuff on my main page. So that's the main.
It's all on main. Look out for that. Thank you so much, Lucé. Thank you for joining us.
It means so much that you had me on. I really love what you guys are doing. I really cherish it. It's super important. So thank you. And thanks to George Romero. Bless.
Yes. Well, you can, beautiful fans out there, if you're catching us here, you can listen to our podcast, Horror Survival Guide, anywhere you listen to podcasts as well. And you can hear Julia and I take deep dives every week into a different horror film, and we dissect how you can survive.
And I'm also on 2 other podcasts. You can catch me talking about Stephen King on the Losers Club or Alejandro Jodorowsky on Jodorowsky.
One of my favorite names for a podcast. And then you can also, I know, isn't it so good? And also you can check out the George A. Romero Foundation, please. They are dedicated to restoring Romero's work, including seldom seen pieces from early on in his career, like The Amusement Park, which we love, and Season of the Witch that we talked about, as well as keeping an archive and helping the next generation of young filmmakers like Julia. Thank you to everyone for watching. Please do feel free to reach out to Julia or myself on the interwebs. We do love to interact. Obviously, we love your suggestions.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching and hoping your days and nights are fantastic oracle.
Bye. Bye.